Welcome to another Acker BBall podcast. It's going to be week 4 now this week, and we took off last week, Dad, because of Thanksgiving. Dad, how was your Thanksgiving, first off?
It was great. We had some friends down and family down from Rochester visiting their new home. They were here for the first time, so lots of fun, too much fun. I'm glad that they're here. I'm kind of glad they're gone, and that we're back to normal operation. But no, it was great times. So
Awesome.
wouldn't change it for anything. Yeah.
Glad you had fun.
Yeah, other than you were not being here, of course.
Yes. Well, unfortunately, I was working. I was getting paid time and a half, which is nice.
Absolutely.
So couldn't make the occasion, unfortunately. That's what happens when you work in this industry sometimes. Let's start off by talking about our main concept, the ASUN, and we'll talk about the early season tournament play that they just had, because that's what goes on during holiday week, is early season tournament play. Now, this conference went 6-11 in the past 2 weeks since we've been off in this early season tournament play, and that's good for 35%. And Dad, you notice that this is a similar situation when they're playing against Power 5 conferences. What's that situation like?
Yeah, right. So from a record perspective, 3-13 against the Power 5 conferences. Obviously, North Florida had a couple early wins, but right. Since then, so 1-13 since then. And if you add in 8-10 Pac-12, whatever you want to call those power levels, another 4 losses against no wins. So 3-17, if you will, against those bigger conference teams. 37-58 overall as a conference as far as overall record. So, but a quick observation, especially against those Power 5 teams, there's a whole nother layer of athleticism, strength, size, which we know. But what I've noticed too, aside from that's always going to be the case, is the team play is much more refined. I see on the especially execution on the offensive level. They find gaps that maybe a smaller conference team at this stage of the season don't have covered, and they just totally exploit them. So that's what I've been finding much in some of those games at this point of the year.
Yeah, it was very evident for Georgia in their win.
Yeah, this is a good example. Right?
Exactly.
A number of them Nebraska did the same thing though. They pulled off the same kind of thing where they found gaps and they just took advantage of it. So but obviously that's part of what did we know that going in. That's no big shocking revelation there that's how it goes. But and hopefully from an ASUN team perspective, and fans here, you look at how can they adjust to those. They played 18 games, 17 or 20 games against power conference teams. How can these ASUN teams take them back and then move forward during the course of the season?
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned it's Power 5 conferences, and you didn't list the Pac-12. Now it's Power 5. Let's, because kind of the shape has changed with the disbursement of the Pac-12 for this upcoming season. So who is your Power 5? Clarify that, because everyone's confused on what's a power conference right now.
Right. That's a good point. Right. I actually had the same thing when I was trying to figure it out. So I have the Big 10, the Big 12, the SEC, the ACC, and I included the Big East.
As you should. I think you should. Yeah, absolutely.
But they were kind of a 4-5. So
right. There's it's always been called Power 5 when the Pac-12 was in there, but it's also like this Power 6 that people speak about as well that typically adds the Big East. So I'm glad that's what you're calling it there. So you're talking about the 2 wins, the 3-13. You're talking about the win for North Florida against South Carolina, also against Georgia Tech, and then you're counting the ASUN win against Butler, right? Or the Austin Peay.
Oh, no. Right. No, the third win was Jacksonville beating Virginia Tech.
Oh, okay. So they have 4.
There's 4. Oh, I missed one. Okay,
4.
Well,
yes.
There you go.
Yes, because I knew Austin Peay had that big one against Butler not too long ago.
Right.
Yes.
Nope,
all right. So 4-13. 4-13 is their official record. All right, that's good. That's good stuff to have. Now, one team that, in spite of all this kind of downward spiral of success that's been happening in the ASUN, one team has been climbing out of that, and that's the Florida Gulf Coast Eagles. They've had some recent successes. Now, they did host a early season tournament at their their campus in the Homewood Suites Classic. Ended up going 2-1 in that time, almost secured all 3 victories. Unfortunately, they lost arguably their best player, Inky Sean Kellerman, against Omaha, and he only played about 3 minutes in that game before he ended up going out. Hasn't been back since. They've won twice, once in the Homewood Suites Classic tournament, and then once afterwards. They had a big win last night against FAU, which isn't the same FAU team that they have been the past couple of years. Dusty May's obviously not there anymore. Still, it was a really good win. They played against Baba Miller, who is a potential NBA player, and he did work, but they were able to put in a good effort defensively other places, and obviously a great offensive effort with 80 points for this team, a team that just averages over 60. That was a really solid win. I do, Dad, want to talk about their defense a little bit, because they're 3-5, right?
Right.
They've allowed 65.9 opponents point per game, and that's the lowest in all of the ASUN conference. That point differential that they've had is 2.1, which is second lowest in the conference, only behind Queens. So that definitely, goes to show this team could easily be 5-3, 6-2, rather than 3-5 right now. What did you see out of FGCU tonight when you watched against?
Yeah, I watched the Florida Atlantic game, and FAU game, and what I saw was one thing I really liked, Michael Duax. That, talk about glue guys. We've talked a lot about that with some of the other teams, right? Teams in the conference here, but there's another guy who's one of those offensive glue guys. He scraps for the offensive rebounds. Mm-hmm. He gets open for an outlet pass. Those little things that don't show up on the stat sheet that just tie the offense together and keep things flowing. He did a tremendous job in that game, and really, I think helped propel them.
Duax is one of those guys that, he came over from Northern Iowa. He was obviously a starter his rookie year due to injury, then kind of came back to a more bench role last year, transfers out, comes to FGCU where he's been in and out of the starting lineup, and he's kind of carving out a good role for himself here for this program.
Right. Yep, exactly. One thing I thought that was missing from them, and they did a great job of shooting in that game, but their offensive cohesiveness is a lot of individual play, a little bit like North Florida, not the pace, but a lot of individual. Right, that's a whole nother level.
No, FGCU has the lowest pace in the entire conference.
Exactly, very right. So I was just going to say, very deliberate. Just kind of Barno, for example, he's a point guard, but he really is a finisher. He's not really a creator, a playmaker.
He's more of a scoring guard, rather.
A scoring guard, handling the ball, right? But yeah, they have a lot of guys that can do exactly that. A lot of they will 5 out. They went 4-1 a little bit, but a lot of 5 out isolation, dribble, drive, and try to create. It worked well. They really gutted out that game. It was an impressive. We want to win this game type of showing.
Yeah, second year in a row now they beat FAU by a score of 80-78. Again, that happened on Sunday night. This team's been in every game, as I mentioned. They were in it with even TCU for about 75% of the game, but they lost Kellerman. He hasn't been back, as we talked about. So let's talk about Gillette real quick. What did you see from the big man as he competed in his second start ever in his young collegiate career?
Well, what I noticed right away is the defensive end. He's got a lot of work to do. He got
early fouls.
Well, first 2 possessions were dunks, or whether it was a dunk and a layup, I believe it was. But it was both on him. He did not hedge recover. He kind of got stuck in no man's land. Slow to get back on the third play. I think he created a foul. Went to the bench. But then, when he came back into the game, he was a beast on the offensive end. He was very aggressive. Got an offensive rebound, put back, and a couple times, and it really, again, one of those kind of glue elements that just made little things. Nice boxing out as well. That's another thing I noticed about this team. They box out. They commit to boxing out. They commit to all 5 rebounding. Their stats don't necessarily support that in terms of their rebound numbers. Don't explode off the chart, but they really commit to it as a team. So, I think it's a fundamental that'll take them through, long term down as the year goes on.
Yes, I totally agree. I think this team's going to gel and be dangerous, which you had foreshadowed a couple weeks ago on our podcast. All right, let's get into what is going to be player and newcomer of the week. That is Shelton Williams-Dryden. Now, this team, West Georgia, has not had much success so far to start the season. They're 0-9. But he has been great. In the past week, he averaged 19.3 points, 8 rebounds, and he ended up having a 21.13 rebound double-double, all while averaging 2 steals in 3 games from this past week. Shelton Williams-Dryden is a very unique player, Dad, because he is actually a small ball 5. That's what he's been playing for them so far this season. He's only 6'6", so he's a very unique player. Neither you and I have been able to see West Georgia play so far this week, but definitely wanted to highlight Williams-Dryden and we'll have to check him out, but wish him continued success, because if we have to watch West Georgia for anything, it's this guy. He's been very, very good coming from JUCO, and he's definitely the first kind of key piece they've acquired here as they begin their young D1 careers. As my dogs bark at everything. Apparently they're excited about the Wolves.
They want to watch them too, yeah.
I guess so. Well, we have a couple teams that were starting off the season great. We actually mentioned them when we were talking about the Power 5 conference wins, but they haven't been playing great as of late. What's going on there?
Yeah, so wanted to mention North Florida and is an example. They as you mentioned, they've had the 2 big early wins. Totally fun to watch. What a great, exciting team. Here's the issue with them that I see that they really got to clean up, and that's on the defensive end. I think we mentioned that a little bit earlier as well. What I see them doing is generally they're trying the hero play on the defensive end, trying to get the steals so they can run out. That's part. It almost looks so intentional, like that's what they're being coached to do. Is all I can think. But they're getting run over. If a team gets hot, but even just they're giving up so many easy chances because of their style of play on the defensive end. So I'd like to see some more commitment as a team, as a 5-man unit on the defensive end, to see them elevate up higher. We know they can score. We know they've got offensive talent. That'll come and go, right, as shots go in,
right.
Don't go.
Right. It's lucky that they're outscoring teams right now because they're also getting scored on the most. So
exactly.
They need
That's
to
right.
up on that end, because the shot is not going to carry you through every single game.
Exactly.
Especially when it comes to down the season, down deep in the postseason.
Yep, exactly. So we'll see where that goes. Obviously, they can win on offense alone. You can always win a game in that scenario if just everybody's on fire. But that's, to me, the better opportunity for that is to clean up stuff at the other end too.
Right.
And it's not like they don't have the athleticism to do so. It just, again, it almost seems like it's a game plan type of situation where they're trying that big, quick double team and just jump it. If the team reverses the ball and gets a layup or a wide open 3 on the other end, so be it. Just go down and try to outscore them again.
Yeah.
So, it's fun though.
Right. And a team that has offense coming from everywhere. Let's talk about a team that doesn't have much offense coming from anywhere but one place in Austin Peay. LJ Thomas has been fantastic so far, as the dogs just continue on to make noise. Dad, tell me a little bit about Austin Peay.
Austin Peay, right. So, yeah, LJ Thomas is averaging 19.4 points per game. Bigger than that is he's taken 31% of their shots from the floor. So that's a huge number. Shooting well, 41.8%. That's a nice, solid number overall. But yeah, that's a hard thing to sustain as a team there. They have had some injuries. Achilles Evans, who started in the summer in some summer ball games, hasn't played at all. Haney, Witt, and Emmanuel have missed at least 2 games each. There's another 26 points per game missing with those guys if they're not in. So a big loss there. But we had touted this team in the preseason as being deeper than last year, more versatile than last year, giving Coach Gibson a lot of more options on how to match up with teams. And we haven't seen that translate yet again, especially on the offensive end, partly due to the injuries that are going on.
Right. This is like the exact opposite of North Florida. Both teams having early season success, but in different ways. This team seems to do it more on the defensive end. They're very effective at those double teams and getting a steal or disrupting a play, a shot pass, to the point where it just does, the ball won't end up going in the net, or if it does, it comes on a very contested shot. Whereas offensively, they gotta click kind of overall with everyone. So let's talk about the upcoming games for this week here. We got one big one that I really like that I want to talk about second, but you got one highlighted for tomorrow.
Yeah, Stetson at University of South Florida, 7 o'clock, and tomorrow night, Tuesday night, on ESPN Plus. I'm interested to see Stetson how they develop. It's a good opportunity here on a road game. South Florida is 4-3. Obviously, you have a name for them as for good players. So yeah, I think that'll be a very good test for them to see how they've progressed so far.
Yeah,
so
they haven't looked good.
Your big game,
they haven't looked good.
No,
but neither has South Florida. Really, South Florida's obviously going through a tough time right now, with the loss of Amir Abdur-Rahim. But the team has looked disconnected as well. So it might be a good way for Stetson to get in there and see through the cracks. Furman, which is the best team in the SoCon right now, going up against Florida Gulf Coast, who we just talked about. Furman, first off, seems to find a way to be a good team every single year, no matter what player they lose. Their program seems to just be able to reload every single season. And that's why I'm excited for this team to play against Florida Gulf Coast, because we just talked about them. They're really good defensively. They've been figuring things out here without Kelman. I want to see what this team can do once again against one of the better teams in a conference that's very comparable to the ASUN. So I definitely think that's going to be a good game. Central Arkansas just had a couple players in week 3. Elias Cato and Lane Taylor ended up winning newcomer and player of the week, reversed respectively. And they're playing against Little Rock, which is another team that's had kind of a wishy-washy start to the season so far, so that should be a very competitive game. If you want to check out a young team that's going to continue to grow and possibly be dangerous by the time conference play comes around. Then you got another game highlighted for Florida Gulf Coast here, Dad.
Yep, Saturday, 3 p.m. against a little team called LSU on the road. So yeah, obviously that'll be a great test for them again. One right after another here, so to see how they click in. So yeah, that's how. And then one other game this week we wanted to highlight: Austin P. also on Saturday at 3 o'clock, so you can flip back and forth if you're a junkie. At Sanford, who were 7-2 in the SoCon. Sanford actually beat North Alabama by 1 point in overtime earlier in the year. So kind of maybe a rematch, a revenge game, or again, a conference, similar type of conference matchup there. So yeah, there's some decent matchups here. A lot of games we didn't mention specifically here. There's a pretty stacked week. A couple games on Friday, but a couple of days where there's, I believe, 5 or 6 games. So definitely some other action to catch.
Yes. And if you don't catch up on that, you can follow Acker at BBall. It's ACKERATBBALL on Instagram or X, and you'll get the daily updates from what goes on in those games there. So you can check that out there. Now, let's real quick. You mentioned North Alabama. This was a cool stat I saw today. So they're leading in the entire conference in point differential at 5.1. They're outscoring opponents 5 points per game. That is happening even with surrendering over 100 points to Auburn. I just wanted to mention that. Like that impressed me, that they were still top of the conference in spite of getting absolutely demolished by one of the best teams in the nation.
They're pretty good, I guess. Auburn, that team. Yeah, they do all right.
they might be a March Madness favorite. Who knows? So let's talk a little bit about Acorn's Attic here, Dad. What do you got for us?
Yeah, so I thought we kind of been using it filtered, kind of in their message of so far of this whole podcast here, but it's about perseverance is what I decided would be the kind of the key word to talk about. And perseverance, a personal story for me, I think I mentioned some of it in previous ones, is my golf game. As we've moved down here into a golf community, my golf game's it's been the worst it's ever been, as would like to call it. But I've been persevering, not giving up. In fact, my brother-in-law just mentioned that today. I was talking to him on the phone, and he said, if you saw how you're playing, you probably would have given up. So good for you for hanging in there. But I've been doing some physical therapy on some aging body parts, and really working at my craft, and starting to pay dividends. So enjoying the game again. But tying it back to basketball, again, the message here we've been talking about is, despite the fact that we've got off to a slow start in the ASUN, records-wise, either overall tournament play, earlier tournament play, or even against the power conferences, right? Just that message of sticking with it, stay together, working through and trusting each other, because that's really how you're going to elevate whatever it is you're doing in life. Whether you can do a personal thing or a basketball-related thing, whatever it might be, a team thing. You always have a team around you, but persevere through the highs and lows. To get off to a bad start, or a thought you have in your head that, hey, this is going to solve everything, and it just flat out busts, just persevere, recheck it, check it again, right? Bounce an idea off of somebody, but be honest with yourself and push through.
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing reminds me immediately of a Bible verse. So I didn't have one prepared for today, and this was the first thing I thought of when you brought this up, was Matthew 7:7-8. Ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock at the door and it will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, one who seeks finds, and to the one who knocks the door will be opened. And like, what I love about this is that it shows how many layers there are to perseverance. Because like, first you ask, okay, well, what else? You got to seek, okay, you got to knock. Like, there's continued steps, there's continued development throughout perseverance. Perseverance isn't just one factor, it's multiple factors with multiple challenges to overcome over and over again. And I think that's very reflective in a sport like basketball, where, all right, you get a couple wins, you're off to a hot start. Oh, okay, you lose to an opponent you shouldn't have lost to. Or, okay, all right, we're playing good, we're gelling really well. Okay, one of our top guys just went out. All right, what are we going to do next? Persevere through that. So yeah, I think it's a really good topic to have brought up today, and I think it's definitely something that these teams are going to be facing even more of as we get to the close of ending non-conference play here.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, no, stick with it, like you said. I lost my train of thought, but anyways, yeah, I think you said it very well.
So that's going to do it for this episode of Acker Basketball. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. As I said, check out our Instagram and X. And until next time, take care.